The comm station crackled with static, then silence. High above the dense, uncharted wilds of Cernax V, the last transmission from Research Outpost Delta came in broken, panicked, and blood-chilling. We thought it was an animal, but it's thinking, it's asterisk learning asterisk, it's asterisk watching asterisk. Then nothing. Inside the Galactic Council's towering central chamber on Yaldrin Prime, the delegates barely looked up from their floating holodisplays. Holographic projections of Outpost Delta flickered before them, thermal scans, biosigns, vanishing patrol routes, all rendered into meaningless data loops. Ambassador Krivex of the Zalith Empire sneered, his silvery jaw clicking. Another human-run project collapses under its own chaos. Why am I not surprised? From a lower dais, Commander Darius Holt folded his arms. He was human, broad-shouldered, weathered from years of desert and deep jungle deployments. His dark eyes scanned the projections, not with detachment, but the alertness of a predator. It wasn't a failure of the project, he said calmly. You lost that outpost because you ignored the environment. You sent machines to do a survivor's job. A chittering laugh rippled from a reptilian Ilveth diplomat nearby. Your survivor tactics are ancient history. We've evolved beyond that sort of barbarism. Holt didn't flinch. No, you've just forgotten what real survival looks like. Counselor Dravan, a willowy being with iridescent skin, waved a bony hand. This is neither the time nor place for Earth's dramatic philosophies. We're launching a synthetic retrieval team with updated thermal cloaks and suppression drones. We expect full containment in 40 hours. They won't last for, Holt replied coldly. There was a moment of amused silence. Then Krivex leaned forward, his spiny brow raised. Then what would you suggest, Commander? Fire and spears? Bare hands and war paint? I'd suggest you let Earth handle this with our best men. Not machines. Not simulations. Men who were bred by the kind of worlds your people paved over centuries ago. Krivex rolled his eyes. The Council is not here to indulge in nostalgia, Commander Holt. But if you wish to send your primitives into the field, we won't stop you. Just don't ask us to recover the pieces. Holt gave a single nod. I won't need to. 8 hours later, across the orbit of Cernax V, the first wave of Council-engineered synth hunters dropped into the tree cover like silver needles. They moved silently through the alien jungle, heat signature dampeners and neural pulse weapons active. They communicated through infrared pulses, too fast for organic eyes. 20 minutes in, the first signal was lost. The remaining units moved into formation. One scout's vision turned red as he spotted movement, just a blur. Then another feed went dark. They tried regrouping. The formation shifted into a retreat pattern. One turned and saw nothing but leaves. Then the vines above him uncoiled and dropped like a whip, crushing him under a dozen pounds of muscle and claws. The last thing the final drone saw was a pair of small, intelligent black eyes, eyes that didn't blink. Then silence returned. From the safety of a Council warship, the footage cut out with a sharp whine. Krivex stared at the empty feed in disbelief. That's impossible. Those were our best AI synths. Counselor Dravan rubbed her forehead. What asterisk is asterisk down there? Something that doesn't care about your tech, Holt said, stepping into the viewing chamber. Something that doesn't fear it, doesn't play by your rules. Krivex turned on him. Are you telling us this is a native Cernax predator? No, Holt brought up an old Earth file, the kind buried deep in non-digital archives. It displayed a squat, muscular creature with thick fur, dagger teeth, and a reputation that spanned millennia. This is what your data suggests. Krivex snorted. A asterisk honey badger asterisk? You're out of your mind. It's not just a honey badger, Holt murmured. It's something smarter, stronger, possibly modified. We don't know how it got there, but I know how to deal with it. Dravan leaned forward. And how exactly? Holt pulled up 3 profiles. Men, human males, battle-scarred, seasoned, unshaven. Their dossiers listed survival records, confirmed kills in deep space skirmishes, and success in zero-support environments. Major Travis Kane, Sergeant Eli Mercer, Lieutenant Ronan Shaw, Earth's top survival tacticians, trained in post-Earth Exodus doctrine, deep forest, desert, ice wastes, feral zones. And you believe they can succeed where machines failed? Draven asked quietly. Holt didn't blink, because unlike your machines, they were taught one thing from the moment they could walk: how to survive when the universe wants you dead. Kribex paced. Fine. Send them. Send your savage little dream team. But understand this. If they fail, Earth's credibility in this council will shatter. Holt's expression was unreadable. They won't fail. As he turned to leave the chamber, the transmission room hissed with static. Briefly, one last frame came through from the destroyed drones. It was a blurred, partial image, but it showed unmistakable claw marks, not on flesh or tree bark, but on asterisk metal star. Deep gouges that tore through synth armor. And below it, etched in blood, a crude yet unmistakable Earth symbol. Warning sign hash asterisk asterisk survivors only asterisk asterisk warning sign hash. Holt looked at it and smiled grimly. They are already sending a message. The dropship trembled as it pierced the upper atmosphere of Cernax V, its outer hull groaning beneath the turbulent pressure. Inside, the team sat in silence, their gears strapped tight, eyes focused on nothing and everything at once. Major Travis Kane adjusted the tension on his forearm exobrace, though he didn't need to. The motion was habit, a calming ritual from years of survival runs on hostile worlds. A long scar ran from his temple to his jaw, earned on an abandoned Martian ridge after being left for dead during a training op. He didn't flinch when the scar tugged. Pain was just another teacher. Opposite him sat Sergeant Eli Mercer, all muscle and motion, drumming his gloved fingers on his knee. His buzz-cut head ticked from side to side like he was keeping tempo to some internal rhythm. Eli had a reputation. He smiled in firefights, never used armor, and swore that adrenaline was better than sleep. But it was his nose for danger that kept squads alive. This place already stinks wrong, he muttered, eyes flicking to the screen showing green canopy below. Like it's trying to look untouched. That's camouflage. Everything down there uses camouflage, came the voice from the corner. Lieutenant Ronan Shaw barely moved, crouched low like a shadow. His face was half hidden beneath a ragged scarf, his eyes still and calculating. He didn't talk much. He didn't need to. He read tracks, heat patterns, animal scat, cloud movement, anything that told a story without words. People said Shaw could smell intent. Kane finally broke the silence. This isn't a hunt. It's an assessment. Something down there thinks like we do. It analyzes, stalks, exploits. Mercer grinned. So it's like me on a bad day. No, Kane said. It's like me when I'm patient. The ship descended past the cloud layer. Cernax V stretched out in endless shades of green, gold, and gray, trees that breathed sulfur, vines that pulsed faintly, and canopy levels stacked like a jungle skyscraper. The wreckage of the Council synth team was barely visible from the air, scattered like broken insects across the forest floor. As the drop bay hissed open, the air slapped them with heat and humidity thick enough to chew. Kane stepped off first, eyes sweeping. Misa followed with a low whistle. Feels like Earth's Congo had a love child with a chemical plant. They moved as one, silent and precise, cutting through the dense foliage with pre-sharpened machetes and encoded field compasses tuned to magnetic anomalies. No drones, no thermal scans, just boots, breath, and instinct. Within an hour, Shaw raised a hand and crouched. Kane knelt beside him. Before them lay the remains of one of the synth units. Its chest cavity had been pried open, not sliced, but asterisk-torn star. Components were missing, but not scavenged. It was left exposed, as if in warning. Shaw pointed to the claw marks. Not an animal. Clean placement. Maximum leverage. No waste. Kane's eyes narrowed. Tactical dissection. Mercer leaned over the corpse. Claws did that. What are they made of? Tungsten? No, Shaw said softly. He stepped back, brushing away a layer of dirt from a nearby tree. Beneath it, a strange glyph was carved in the bark, 3 slashes, angled and deliberate. This wasn't just an attack. It was a message. Great, Mercer grunted. The things got a sense of humor. They pressed on, deeper into terrain that twisted with unnatural shapes, trees fused with fungus, vines laced with corrosive dust, puddles that steamed when touched. Every step had to be earned, every breath filtered. As night fell, They made camp in a narrow ridge between two cliffs, choosing high ground. Kane prepped a perimeter with passive motion sensors, no pings, no alerts. Just silent blinking lights wired to silent flays. Around the fireless camp, Shaw laid out fragments from the synth remains. They were etched with something, claw gouges again, but these were rhythmic, patterned. They are not just symbols, he murmured. They are mirrored. It's learning symmetry. Mercer leaned in, like a child drawing shapes. Like a soldier testing language, Kane corrected. We're not dealing with instinct. We're dealing with experience. Suddenly, a crunch. Every head turned. Shaw vanished into the shadows, crossbow drawn. Mercer pulled his machete free. Kane, weaponless by choice, scanned the tree line. Then, movement. Fast, low to the ground. A blur between shadows. Shaw launched his bolt, but it thudded harmlessly into bark. Kane signaled. They split. Mercer bolted right, drawing noise. Shaw looped wide. Kane dropped low, still, invisible. The trap was simple. Classic Earth doctrine: distract, isolate, flank. But nothing happened. No follow-up charge. No trap spring. Just stillness. Then a thud, Mercer's grunt, short and sharp. Kane moved. He found Mercer slumped against a rock, blood leaking from a gash along his ribs. Shaw arrived seconds later. Didn't see it. Mercer gritted. It *weighted star. Let me pass. Shaw scanned the trees again. It used you. Drew you in. Kane looked around, then up, into the canopy. There, on a branch 20 feet above, were claw marks. It's testing us, he said, just like we testing it. And it's winning, Shaw muttered. Kane stared into the darkness. Not for long. He reached into his pack and pulled out an old-world relic, a data crystal etched with Earth's earliest survival doctrine: fireless tracking, predator mimicry, pain resistance conditioning. The methods long dismissed by the Galactic Council. But they hadn't faced a creature built by Earth's unforgiving legacy. We stopped thinking like soldiers, Kane said. We start thinking like * survivors star. We fight this on Earth's terms. No tech, no noise, just tooth, grit, and shadows. As Mercer winced and Shaw began stitching him up using bone thread and spore antiseptic, something rustled in the distance. Not in retreat, not in warning. It was watching. And it was waiting for them to make the next move. The jungle held its breath. Travis Kane crouched beside a torn root system, his fingers pressed against a set of deep indentations in the soil. They weren't just claw marks, they were landing points. The creature hadn't been running. It had leapt likely from a branch above, with perfect calculation and strength. No drag, no stumble, just an impact and a clean takeoff. He looked over his shoulder at Shaw, who knelt silently, studying a trail of broken twigs that had been deliberately snapped, not for direction, but for signal. It's not trying to hide anymore, Shaw said, voice barely audible. It wants us to follow. Behind them, Mercer sat propped against a slope, his bandaged side stained darker than before. The blood loss was making him sluggish, but his eyes still burned with defiance. Lure us in, pick us off one by one. I like it style. You're not dying here, Kane said firmly. Never said I would, Mercer replied, then coughed. But if I do, make sure it's with teeth in my throat, not infection in my guts. Shaw stood. I tracked its prints to a ravine half a click east. There's movement down there. Controlled. Not random. It's testing our approach. Kane nodded. Then we test back. They moved slowly, like ghosts through the canopy shadows. Kane led now, eyes scanning for unnatural symmetry. Earth doctrine dictated one universal truth. When facing an intelligent predator, never assume it thinks like you. Assume it thinks better star. The ravine loomed ahead, a gash in the jungle earth filled with thick fog and jagged stones. They crouched at the edge. Shaw pointed to a cluster of vines twisted in a spiral formation, too deliberate to be natural. It's marking territory, Shaw said, just like wolves used to do. Not a challenge, a declaration. Kane stared into the pit. It wants us, hey. They descended anyway. The air in the ravine was cooler, damp with rot and the iron tang of old blood. Mercer took point now, ignoring his wound, scanning high and low with a sharpened metal shard in one hand and a pulse beacon in the other. It wasn't active, just a decoy. As they advanced, Kane noticed remains scattered along the walls, not recent kills, but bones. Cleaned, arranged. Some from animals, some from synths, all displayed like trophies in a grotesque timeline of evolution. Then they saw it, just for a second. A flash of movement at the far edge of the mist. Low to the ground, moving laterally across the rock wall with terrifying speed. Black and gray fur. Long claws. Small, glinting eyes that didn't flinch. It vanished again, leaving only the faint sound of claws tapping stone. Big, Mercer said. Too big for a standard badger. And that speed? It's not natural. It's not, Kane confirmed. This isn't a wild animal. It's a weapon. They found what confirmed it moments later, an abandoned maintenance crate from the original outpost, split open and mostly ransacked. But buried underneath a fallen panel, Kane pulled out a half-corroded data core. He linked it to a patched-up datapad and let the cracked holograms flicker to life. Project Ferox. Experimental Predator Design. Origin, Earth Military Black Division. Archive Year 2810. Design Parameters. Hybridized Mammalian Predator. Enhanced Neural Processing. Resilience against pain and fear triggers. Aggression locked to environmental stimulus. Objective. Simulate extreme survivalist adversary for training protocols. Status. Terminated due to ethical violations. Specimen 13 unaccounted for. Kane closed the file slowly. Someone tried to weaponize survival. Shaw knelt beside him. And now it's doing what it was born to do. A rustle. Then silence. The jungle had eyes again. Mercer turned too late. The creature launched from the fog, striking like a coiled spring. He raised his blade, but the beast clipped him with a shoulder charge, sending him sprawling. Kane fired his flare, a non-lethal burst of light and heat that blinded anything relying on thermal senses. The creature stumbled mid-strike, long enough for Shaw to fire a spike trap from his forearm gauntlet. The trap snapped shut on the creature's leg, but the beast didn't scream. It growled, low and furious, then twisted with raw muscle and tore the spike trap off. Metal and blood sprayed. But still it stood, wounded but unbroken. It locked eyes with Kane. An asterisk smiled star. Then, as fast as it appeared, it retreated into the jungle, limping, but not fleeing. Shaw knelt over the spot where it had stood. Blood pooled, thick and dark. It should have run slower, he said. That limp wasn't just pain. It was a statement. Kane looked at Mercer, now unconscious but breathing. It's not just a predator, Kane whispered. It's a asterisk student star. Every time we engage, it learns, improves, adjusts. Shaw nodded slowly. We're not the hunters anymore. We're the lesson. They carried Mercer back up the ravine with every nerve on edge and the knowledge that the next time they met, the honey badger wouldn't be just a challenge. It would be a mirror, and it was almost done learning. The sky above Cernax V burned crimson as the sun dipped low, staining the jungle canopy with hues of blood and ash. Travis Kane stood at the cliff's edge, staring into the distance, where shadows swirled like smoke and silence reigned with the authority of a killer's calm. Below, the trees trembled, not with wind, but anticipation. Beside him, Lieutenant Ronan Shaw finished tying the last of the bone dust traps, small pressure plates camouflaged with native debris. His movements were precise, ritualistic. There was no longer any doubt about the enemy they faced. This wasn't a predator born of instinct. It was one forged by failure, sculpted in pain, and sharpened through human cruelty. Earth's own legacy, reflected in fur and fury. Mercer lay farther back, propped against the trunk of a coiled root tree, his side freshly stitched, breath shallow. Still alive. Still watching. How long till it comes? He asked, voice roughened by blood and grit. Kane didn't look back. It's already here. They had seen the patterns, its wounds, its silence, the way it chose where to bleed and when to retreat. It was fighting like a man who had read every page of a doctrine and decided to rewrite it. It wasn't killing for dominance. It was escalating for understanding. Kane checked the old flare in his belt, modified now, spiked with synthesized pheromones from Shaw's sample kit. It would trigger a fight or challenge response, assuming their opponent still followed any biological rules. Kane wasn't sure anymore. "It's not afraid of us," Shaw said. "No," Kane replied, "but it respects what we are." There was movement in the trees, subtle, like a whisper dragging through leaves. Shaw vanished into the jungle without a word, leaving Kane and Mercer in the open clearing. They were bait. They knew it. So did the creature. Kane dropped to one knee and carved a crude symbol into the dirt with his knife, the 3 marks. The same one the honey badger had left behind. He wanted it to know this was mutual now, that it was no longer being hunted, that it had passed the test. And then it came. A blow of motion shot from the canopy, low, tight, deliberate. It landed meters from Kane in a crouch, heavy body flexing with pure, coiled violence. The honey badger was larger now, almost a meter tall at the shoulder, its fur ragged, armor-plated scars along its sides, one eye clouded, the other gleaming with wild intelligence. It didn't charge. It waited. Kane stood slowly, arms wide, unarmed. "We created you," he said, "but you perfected yourself." The creature growled softly. Not a warning. A question. Shaw struck first from behind, fast, precise, a tranquilizer dart aimed for the creature's spine. But the honey badger spun mid-motion, catching the dart in its claw and hurling it into a tree trunk without missing a beat. It charged Shaw, who barely rolled aside, slashing with a knife that left a shallow cut across its flank. Kane moved then, rushing forward, grabbing the flare and slamming it into the ground between them. A pulse of light and scent burst out in every direction. The creature reeled, not in fear, but rage. And it attacked. Claws met bone. Teeth flashed. Kane ducked low, driving his shoulder into the creature's ribs as Shaw dove onto its back. The 3 of them collided in a violent tangle of limbs, instinct, and survival. Shaw jammed a curved blade under its armored plate. Kane punched into its throat with a knuckle dagger. But still it fought. The honey badger hurled Shaw off, slashing his arm open from elbow to wrist. Kane went down under its weight, pinned as its jaws snapped inches from his throat. "Now!" he shouted. Mercer, barely conscious, slammed the detonator. The trap beneath the clearing snapped open, a spike pit lined with non-lethal resin darts laced with paralytic agent. The creature collapsed into it, snarling and thrashing, half sedated but still awake, still alive, still watching. Kane lay on his back, bleeding and breathless, heart hammering. The creature didn't cry. It didn't scream. It simply stared at him as its limbs slowed. Kane crawled to the edge of the pit and looked down into those fierce, intelligent eyes. "You beat our tech. You beat our tactics. But not because we failed," he said. "Because you are what Earth used to be. Before we forgot how to suffer." Shaw limped over, arm bandaged, blood crusting his temple. "What do we do with it?" Kane stared a moment longer. "We show the Council what real evolution looks like." 3 days later, in the Galactic Council chamber, silence fell as the image appeared on the holoscreen. The creature, caged in reinforced glass, pacing calmly, claws clicking. It ignored the cameras. It studied the Asterisk People's star. Ambassador Krivex paled. This is impossible. You were supposed to destroy it." Kane stood beside Darius Holt, both men worn and dirty, but alive. "I don't destroy what teaches us," Kane said. "You mocked our survival doctrine, laughed at our methods, but this creature is your answer." Counselor Dravan stared at the screen. "It thinks. It learns asterisk," Holt said. "And in 4 days, it mastered every advantage you thought unbreakable. It learned from our legacy. It is Earth, the part you've spent centuries trying to civilize out of existence." Krivex sneered. "So what now? Train an army of monsters?" Kane stepped forward. "No, we remind the galaxy that survival isn't clean, or clinical, or polite. It's blood, it's grit, and it's intelligence that adapts, not dominates." The creature paused behind the glass. Then it drew 3 claw marks across the glass wall, slow, deliberate. Kane turned to the Council. "That symbol? It used to mean nothing. Now it means one thing." He looked each alien in the eye. "Survivors only."